Hello, Marielle here with Romance by the Book, and we are talking today with Charis Michaels. We've read her Duchess A for December, and now we're going to talk about it. So, Charis, thanks so much for letting us read your book. It's been great.
Well, I am so grateful to have been chosen. Thank you for reading it. Quick question. Is this an audio recording or a video recording? Okay, can we be seen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, good.
It's both. So we always ask a couple of questions, but I asked Megan what she wanted me to ask you. And first thing she wanted to know was what led you to use Snow White as the basis for the story. She's like, was it the Huntsman? Was it the potential duchesses? Was it the apple orchard? Where did it start?
That's a great question. You know, when I began to conceive the series, I can remember exactly where I was when I got the idea, I'm going to do a series about sideline characters from fairy tales. So fairy tales are really not that good of stories, but there's something about the idea of them that I love. You know, it's just sort of like another time, another world. There's frequently a ball, there's woodland creatures, there's a thatched cottage. They're just the elements of it, and the world building part of it appeals to me. The love story in actual fairy tales, not really that great. I mean, it's like usually someone is asleep and then they get kissed and they wake up and they fall in love. It's kind of boring. However, the idea, Jennifer Crusoe used to say the point of most fairy tales is the heroine looks good while sleeping. And it's true, like that's a big part of it, including in Snow White. But the world building of fairy tales and the idea of a fairy tale appeals to me. And in fact, I think historical romances are all kind of fairy tales for grown women, or whomever the readers are. So when I decided what's not been done, we have done reverse fairy tales. We have done fairy tales where the hero or the heroine is a villain. We have done retellings, but has anyone really ever done, at least recently, the story of sideline characters, like whatever happened to? So when I decided that, the first one I thought of was Drusilla Tremaine from Cinderella, which is a stepsister. And I was like, definitely going to do her. And then I started to think, what other fairy tales have sideline characters? I mean, frequently in fairy tales, you're talking to like a crab or, an Ariel, or, you're talking, there's a woodland creature that is your sideline character. So I had to really dig. Snow White is not one of my favorite fairy tales. It's dark, it's scary, the witch is terrible. The Huntsman originally is meant to cut Snow White's heart out and eat it or bring it back in an ivory box. It's a really dark fairy tale. However, it had this great languishing character in the Huntsman that we don't really ever know what happens to him, and he has a kindness to him, right? So he is meant to kill Snow White and bring back her heart in a box, and he says, Snow White, run away, I'm going to kill a deer and bring that heart back to the witch in a box. And I thought, we need to know what has happened to him. So after I figured out that it was going to be his story, in addition to kind of thinking like, okay, he was a huntsman. What could he be in Regency England? Oh, I know. He could be called the huntsman, but in fact be a mercenary. I wrote down all the elements, just talismans and tonal things and story elements from Snow White, every single thing I could think of. And I began to think, how can I weave this in? Well, we have poison apples. Well, we have dwarves. We have a mirror on the wall. We have an evil witch. We have Snow White herself, and I just started to write down all of these things and thinking, how can I embed these even very slightly or significantly into a Regency? And that's how it started. It was so much fun. It continues to be fun as I do Tinkerbell in book 2, and as the final book will be Drusilla Tremaine, the stepsister, who owns a finishing school in Mayfair. It focuses on makeovers. So just even making that initial list of every Easter egg I could possibly put in is fun.
Oh, that sounds fun. And also I want all those books right now. So when I looked at for the Huntsman Reimagined, what did you want to keep about him the most when you started off writing that character?
Well, I think what I knew about the Huntsman most of all, he was a jumping off point, really. And I felt like I could do what I wanted with him, but I knew that he was working class. And I've not really ever had a working class hero before, and I'm not sure I'll ever do it again, to be honest. But it was what it was, and I feel like I made him, you know, sexy and hot and likable. Yeah. But part of the fantasy for many people of reading romance fiction is it takes you to a place where no one is trying to have to figure out how to pay the bills, because that's a real life worry. And so I knew that he probably needed to be working class, because he, you know, whatever, he's a mercenary or he's a tracker, or even if he is a hunter, then he probably, at least he has a job. He's not a landed gentry person. Right. So I knew that he was going to be working class. And so I had to figure out how I was going to pit him with someone, you know, I knew they wouldn't both be working class. That would like just be a no-go, really. So I knew she was going to be from an esteemed family, and figure out, how do I get them together? How can I use class in their conflict without like hitting it over its head, you know, too strongly? We all know that it's going to be a challenge for someone who's an earl's daughter to marry a mercenary. I mean, it could be done, but it would be a challenge. So I didn't want to make that be like a resounding thing, but it definitely needed to be in there. So yeah, and then after that, I didn't really, I mean, the source material of the Huntsman and the Snow White is kind of like 4 lines, really. So it was just, he was supposed to kill her and he didn't.
Well, and I think in this, that does kind of stay true, right? It has a job to do to kind of get her to this place, keep her she needs to toe the line. And very early on, I think there's a line in there where he says that, that she becomes kind of sympathetic. And so it's just kind of really hard for him to stick to, even when he is telling himself that he needs to do his job. His heart's never really in it.
Yeah, he's a good guy. You know, he's a good guy. He's not the sort of mercenary that's like, you know what, until the very bitter end, I'm going to try to do my job. And that was important to me. And when I was reading about the St. James Palace, or the palace at that time, and who was, you know, King George was still on the throne. He was going crazy. The Prince Regent wasn't going to have any children, it looked like. The next couple of brothers of King George's, the sons, it didn't look like they were going to have kids, and they were searching for which brother was going to produce the heir. And the one, and I forget, I have it in the acknowledgements, but I forget which one it is. I think it starts with an A, Albert maybe. The one they felt like, you're going to be the one that's going to give us the heir, just kept dating incredibly inappropriate women. And the palace did go out of their way to try to get rid of the actresses and the ballet dancers and the people that could not grow up to be queen. And I just thought, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to have the Huntsman be hired before the book starts to get rid of someone so that there really was a palace court that was trying to hire the Huntsman to get rid of an inappropriate person, young woman. And so that is how, you know, you're kind of weaving history in with fiction, mostly fiction, but you get a little bit of a jumping off place from history. And so that was, and of course, all that happens before the book even starts, and I just sprinkled it in.
And and if this is a Where Are They Now sort of story, so it makes sense that the part of the story that involves the castle and like court intrigue and all that is in the past for him, but he still can't quite escape it, which is it was fun. Anyway, at least for me, it was really fun to read.
My favorite part of the book is Nightly Snow, that woman that he has to escort from the palace. I just loved writing her.
She was something else.
So fun.
That was fun. I thought it was interesting in reading that everybody seemed to have an idea of what other people's ideal match would be. I think Helena's parents figured out who they were going to match her up with. The Uncle Titus also seemed very invested, but the actual people who were supposed to be matched, everyone was wrong. And even when Helena is trying to match her fiance, the Duke of Lusk, right? She thinks of like, okay, it's got to be somebody who likes these things or that would be able to tolerate this stuff. And I thought it was interesting that like everybody who's trying to match people up, they're all wrong. um, even even Declan thinking about like what he wants for his future, he's also like, you know, everybody is, it's almost like the actual attraction or the actual relationships that come up are all the ones that are surprising. Did you do that on purpose, or is it just something that, I know you like to kind of write stories about, you know, how did you guys meet? And
right. You know, having a lot of wrong choices was kind of just a result of what I needed the plot to do. I will tell you that last night I'm finally catching up on The Crown.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched The Crown on Netflix.
Just recently I did, yeah.
Spoilers away, but I'm finally, like last night was the episode I watched where Prince Charles, it's depicted, and who knows how true it is, but Prince Charles is obviously madly in love with Camilla Parker Bowles, and everyone conspires to marry him to Diana. And she herself comes to him and says, this is crazy. This is a disaster. We can't do it. But it was sort of like a machine that they were already on. And it just had to happen because she fit the part. And they were tired of him messing around with, you know, a married woman that they'd already contrived to marry just to get her away from him to start with. And I was watching and I was thinking, wow, this really happens. All this stuff that I made up about the parents think it's the best thing, the uncle wants the financial gain, you know, this actually happened. I mean, at that level, I don't know about lower aristocrats in England. And I've definitely seen in life, this or that family, it's always the, you know, I think that those of us who are just sort of normal people, it's less important who we marry in terms of like family appearances. But, you know, growing up in the American South, these sort of established families, they, you know, you need to marry the right person, and you need to, from the right type of family that believes a certain sort of way and looks a certain sort of way. And you see couples pushed together for those sort of family reasons rather than people falling in love. So it is a contrivance in the book that's convenient, but it also, I think it happens a lot, and it rarely ends well.
I do have a friend who, here's my pup, sorry. I do have a friend who, she was funny. People were always setting her up. And she said, I don't know what this says about me that people set me up with these guys and they are not. She's just like, where did they, like, why do they think that I want to date this person? So I just thought it was kind of interesting that in this, I felt like it was pretty realistic that you think, you know, what's going to appeal to somebody. And they're like, nope, that does not work.
I think the happiest partnerships that I know are sort of odd couples, you know, people that you would not have expected to get together.
Yeah.
And because you know, it comes from the heart, and there's a lot of defiance of kind of what is expected. I mean, my parents were appalled by the husband that I chose, and now they love him, and they've come, not appalled, but they were definitely shocked. You know, I came up
too bad.
in Texas dating cowboys, you know, straight literally from the corral sometimes, and he is so far from that. But when it was right, it was right. And that was something that came from us and that no one else tried to engineer. And I think that arranged marriage is a great trope because it frequently doesn't work out. It's always weird. It's always a progression. I used arranged marriages to be in this book to be the marriage that didn't work out. But I also love, as a trope, arranged marriages where two strangers are like, and then it does.
Yeah, I do like reading both of those. It's really fun. I like the fighting, like the kind of, not rebelling, but definitely the like having to fight for your relationship. And I also really like watching people unexpectedly find that you know, actually I do like this person and maybe I do love this person. It's really fun
Right.
too.
In spite of it all, I think it's very, in Western culture, I think it's very rare in real life. I do think that there are cultures in the East where it is an arranged marriage can work out. In the Western culture, I think it's a little bit, it feels wild to us. And sometimes that's what makes a good book, just because it's so far from the real world.
Yeah. I thought the first impressions that you made on some of these characters were interesting too, where like Helena, when she first sees Declan, she thinks he's simple, and he is so astute. He immediately sees that she's intelligent, that she's trying to get out, that she, you know, like he sees so much about her, but she doesn't realize kind of how transparent she is to him at first. And then also the family, like I thought that her sisters, you know, as the story went on, I got to see a little bit more of who they are, you know, kind of behind the scenes, because Helena has an idea at the beginning of the book that she doesn't really fit with her family. But as you go on, you kind of see that some of that is true, but not 100%, and not for every member of her family, which was really, I thought that was a really nice touch as far as side characters go.
Yeah, you and I were talking before we started recording about the collaboration between author and editor. Camille, who is the sister of Helena that she grows closer to over the course of the book, was originally written not really as an ally. And my editor, Elle Keck, said, you need to because I gave a couple little hints, but it was nothing like the way it is. And she said, you need to tease out this. Let them be friends. Let them share a scene. There's a scene before the masquerade ball, which, by the way, you gave me the idea for, where Elle and Camille really have like a meeting of the minds and hearts. And that wasn't originally written like that. I did that on revisions, and I have had so many comments about Camille and that relationship. And that just shows, you know, how smart my editor is, and how she can see like, this is going to improve the story, pull this out more. One thing that I really try to do, and that has been impressed upon me by both my editors, is to focus on the main hero and heroine. So I do have sideline characters. I don't always develop them as much as I would like to, just because I've kind of gotten my wrist slapped before I can overwrite anything. My books are always over 100,000 words. A romance novel is normally 75 to 80,000 words. So I'm already 20,000 words over frequently when I turn it in. So I would love to even flesh out these characters more, but I really try to keep the hero and heroine the main thing. It's what readers like. When I'm reading, it's what I want to read. So no matter how much I feel like I could expound on the other guys, I try to keep it in the middle, or just centered on the two center characters. Camille did get a little bit fleshed out. Everybody else was a little bit sort of stock. Mom and dad had a certain thing that they wanted. They didn't care about her feelings. The uncle had a thing that he wanted. He didn't care about anyone's feelings. I kind of even left the villain, the Duke of, well, I guess the sub-villain, the Duke of Lusk. He's kind of, although he's based on a person that I really know who's exactly like that. I won't say who it is. So they're a little bit more two-dimensional, just so I could really focus on the hero and heroine.
I think having Camille a little more fleshed out did, though, like make you think that, and it made you think that everybody else might have a little bit more to them. And the Duke of Lusk, like at the very end, it was kind of like, oh, you do perk up.
Yes.
Sometimes. So it was an interesting. It was interesting because it was enough, I think, for me, and I have an overactive imagination. So if you give me a little bit, I'm already like off down the road with it.
I love it. I love that in a reader, and that's the way I am too. Did I already ask you this in text? If you don't mind, I don't mean to railroad this, but there is a sideline character in this book who will be the linking character in all three books. And I've only had one person guess who it is. If you know my previous books, The Brides of Belgravia was like so interconnected. It was like 3 friends marry 3 friends, and every book I had to spend like spinning the backstory of how we got into that book, and they didn't stand alone well. And I was like, no. So when I started this trilogy, I thought these books are going to be barely connected so that I don't have to re-explain it every time. And so the character that connects them, and the original lovers from book 1 will dance through the subsequent books, but there's not like the new hero and heroine have not been teased in A Duchess A Day. However, there is someone in here who will be in every book. It is a man. It is not a hero. It is a sideline character. Can you remember? Can you tell who it was? Only one person's gotten it right. Is it who?
Is it the priest?
Not the priest, although that's a good idea. I love the priest, Father Peter.
I'm trying to think. I don't really know. I would think the priest, or maybe, Declan's dad. I don't know if that would.
No,
if he's going to go live in the forest.
What happened was, they go through the market. They go through a market in their right, and maybe their second Duchess that they encounter. Potential Duchess. They go to a market.
That's the one that wants to go to the apothecary all the time.
Right. Sneezy. So he's wearing his yellow livery, and he needs to wear a jacket over it to conceal himself. And they go into like an antiquity shop. Yeah. Mr. Godfrey's antiquity shop. Ooh. So Mr. Godfrey, and they don't take money there, so they have to trade. Yeah. So in every book, Mr. Godfrey, like God, fairy God.
Oh, I like it.
Is going to have his shop pop up in every book.
Is he going to trade the livery then, or like?
So she gave apple seeds. Now. She gave the apple seeds for the livery, and so the heroine of book 2 gets those apple seeds, grinds them into pixie dust, and so because she's Tinkerbell, and then she trades something that the heroine in the 3rd book
will get for. Oh, that's fun. I like that. I think Tessa Dare did her Castles Ever After series. Those were not connected, except that the heroines all inherited a castle, I think.
And I think that's to me one of the most perfect trilogies ever, and I use it frequently. Lenora and I give a workshop on trilogies, and we use that as an example, and I just everything that she does is pretty genius, but that's probably my favorite trilogy ever.
I do love that one. But yeah, so I guess this will be fun though. Now I'm going to be looking for Mr. Godfrey. I didn't even, I was thinking, but I wasn't thinking of him first at all. So
yeah, we'll see. I don't know.
Once he pops up, people will remember.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Or if they've watched this video, they'll remember too. How did you come up with the parlor game?
Well, I knew, right. Well, I have a critique partner, Sherry Allen, up in New Hampshire. She writes small town romances, kind of like Robin Carr style. And she is so great for brainstorming with. And I was talking about the masquerade ball with her, and I didn't have anything with Mirror, Mirror on the Wall. I didn't have anything, and I can't remember but we were brainstorming. We're on the phone, just bouncing ideas back and forth. And I can't remember if she thought of it. She had an idea for coming upon a mirror in the masquerade and having the Duke of Lust like see himself for the first time as a jerk or something like that. And I was like, no, I know I'm going to have it be a parlor game. I'm fine to go to parties. I enjoy parties, I guess, New Year's Eve or like my husband's office holiday party or whatever, as much as the next person. But I don't like doing weird traditional things that I don't know how to do, or like I would never play a drinking game. I would never play spin the bottle. That would make me very nervous as just a party attendee. And I just thought, wow, I can really put my heroine in a terrible situation here by making her come across this game that everyone understands but her. And then we'll tie in Mirror Mirror on the Wall. And it doesn't even make a ton of sense, that game. I actually sat down with my 2 teenagers and I was like, how can we make this game? And there'll be a mirror and it'll spin. And they were kind of throwing out ideas. But I just wanted her, we've all had that feeling of being thrust into a situation and not knowing what you're supposed to do exactly. And then having people take advantage of that and make you feel even stupider. And that is what I wanted her to feel, because I wanted that moment when the villain or the Duke of Lust almost takes pity on her and says, get out of here, so that we begin to see that he does have a little bit of life inside of him. So that was that. And I was really happy with it, because it was a horrifying idea for me, in terms of, like I said, this would just at a party, I would never want to stumble upon this myself. So to put the heroine in that situation, I was really sweating it. And then to have her survive it.
Your mission for sure. It was, I enjoyed that. And it was a unique game. So I was also, that was fun. Good Easter eggs in there for sure. And it was fun.
It was fun.
So you already told us what's next in your series. It's going to be Tinkerbell. And did you say what the book is called?
Yes. So Tinkerbell's story is going to be called When You Wish. Yeah, When You Wish. Sorry, I have the 3 titles running around in my head. When You Wish Upon a Duke.
Oh, nice.
When You Wish Upon a Duke is the story of Miss Isabel Tinker. So I take Tinkerbell and switch it. Miss Isabel Tinker is a travel agency. She works at a small travel agency in Mayfair. Nice. And the hero is the Duke of Northumberland, and he comes in needing to book a holiday. There's more to it than that, but.
Sounds fun. When is it? Do you know when it's coming out yet?
It's coming out in May. So May,
great.
Right. May 2021.
Oh, it sounds so far away, but then I feel like this whole year I've been like, oh, that's going to be forever. And then it's right around the corner.
Yeah, we're in a time warp at the moment. Things that are supposed to be fast are really slow, and things that are slow are supposed to be fast. I think the world will just be beginning to open back up, if I had to guess, based on what I'm hearing about May. So
fingers crossed.
We'll see. Yeah, right.
We usually ask 2 questions to every author that comes on. So Megan's is, what is your favorite trope to read? And you already told me offline that you like to read romantic suspense, which Megan will love to hear also. But those what's your trope?
Probably Marriage of Convenience. Boil it down to that. My heroes and heroines are usually always married by the time they have sex, because in my books, because there is a sense of stress that comes with at least in the Regency, of getting caught, getting pregnant, all the things that can happen if you have sex before you're married. It's a level of stress that I don't read romance fiction for, because I read romance fiction because it's comfortable and I know what's going to happen. So in addition to, so that's kind of the way my books almost always have a marriage of convenience in them, or an arranged marriage, and people get married pretty early in the book so that they can start having sex. I love Marriage of Convenience. I love Bodyguard Protector, and I began writing this book like he was her bodyguard, but it turned out to be such a collaboration. He wasn't really ever protecting her from anything. They were completely equal, working together, which I was happy with. But as a reader, I love romantic suspense where like he's got to like guard her or protect her.
Those are nice. If we were a fly on the wall when you're deep into your writing, what would we see?
Yeah. You know, when I'm writing, well, first of all, I'm sitting in the middle of my living room with my feet on the arm of the couch in front of me. I'm at my desk at the moment. I'm hardly ever down here unless I'm doing revisions and I'm having to go from hard copy to computer to hard copy to computer. I'll be wearing my pajamas, not dressed for the day. My children will be at school, which hasn't yet happened really in 2020, except for like 6 weeks. So I'll be totally alone with my dogs in my pajamas, sitting in a certain chair with my feet propped up, just pounding it out. That's one part of writing. The other part is I've mentioned various people who have helped me. I spend a lot of time on the phone with my critique partners. Lenora Bell in New Zealand, Sherry Allen, I mentioned in New Hampshire, Marie Tremaine, who's up in Seattle, the Pacific Northwest. I always forget if she's in Portland or Seattle. Christy Carlisle. And so I'll call them and I'll say, I have a problem. This isn't going anywhere. Let me tell you what I have so far. And they'll say, try this, try that. And then I will do it for their books and get ideas for my own books, helping with them. In addition to that collaboration I have with my editor, I didn't realize how much you would rely on your friends to help you get outside the story and see, oh, this perfect thing. So a lot of it is on the phone, and which I'm usually folding laundry while I'm doing. And then the writing is just in this certain chair.
That's awesome. Thank you. Also, I guess, where can we find you if we're looking for you on the internet?
So please find me. My website is charismichaels.com, and I do a newsletter when I have a new book coming out. I don't inundate you more than that. My Facebook page is Charis Michaels Author. So I have a Charis Michaels Human page, and you can friend me there, but I don't really post there that much. It's like people that I know from my mother's friends and my aunts, and that's my human page. The Charis Michaels Author page. And then I'm really trying to up my Instagram game, which just started out very meager. As
You've done those flowers and like inspirational nature versus, those were fun.
Yeah, I try to do things unrelated to books. When I'm not shilling a book, I try to do just things from my life, but I forget. And then I think, oh, no one really wants to know this. So I'm trying to get better at that. But Charis Michaels, Instagram, Facebook, website, that's where you can find me.
Nice. And we have a link in our bio right now that has a link that will link you to the website and also the book.
Thank you.
So yay. It's been great talking to you, Charis. It's been too long, so I'm glad we got
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for featuring me and for this little book. And I'm looking forward. So this is being filmed before the read along has happened. So I'm excited to do it and be in the direct messages this month.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you
We're
so
excited
much.
to have you too. All right, I'm going to stop the recording and bye.